of the Real Deal Podcast with myself, Mr. Brandon Haley, and
Mr. Cleon Deal. Every day is a good day, baby. Welcome back.
welcome back to episode 28. That is 28 weeks, man.
28 weeks.
28 weeks of posted episodes.
It's longer than my longest relationship, I think.
Yes, and if you guys are listening to the episode after we post it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, whatever it may be,
Right.
we go live now every Saturday at 7 p.m. when we record the next episode. So we post the episode,
Yep.
post a new episode on Saturday,
Yep.
and then we record a new episode on Saturday. So if you want to be a part of the live show,
Just come and tune in, baby.
even if we're not going to record an episode, which we will for
Yeah.
out of 52 weeks, there might be like maybe 4 weeks that we don't record one. We will still go live. And if people are here, we'll hang out and answer questions, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But today, I always forget that we don't do a deal of the day until I get on live or until we start recording. I'm like, oh shoot, we didn't do a deal of the day.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I see like all the like car people on my Facebook and stuff. I still use Facebook. I'm showing my age. And they're like the deal of the day, and I just keep thinking about the podcast. So
Yeah.
I just spilled a little bit of my drink.
Okay. I need tighten up.
Jesus Christ. I'm not drunk. But today, we are going to dive into red flags, part 3.
Part 3.
And there's a lot of red flags, and we're going to talk about a lot of them. But today, we are going to talk about trust issues and why they are red flags. So, first of all, what is trust issues? And not Drake's. That's a great song too.
So what are trust issues, right? So let's get into the AI definition, Chat GPT, whatever. So trust issues refer to difficulties in believing or relying on others, often stemming from past experience of betrayal, deception, or trauma. So they can manifest as persistent skepticism, fear of vulnerability, and challenges in forming and maintaining trusting relationships. Trust issues.
Trust issues. And why are trust issues a red flag in your opinion?
Well, first, what it shows is number one, part of the definition, it shows a lot of things that basically you've been through, right? So
Yep.
it stems from a certain place. So the problem with it is it shows that you haven't healed from that portion of it yet. You haven't gotten through whatever it is that happened to you X amount of years ago. And so now, me being the person that you're with is now paying the price for somebody else's bill, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was thinking this week, I'm like thinking about all my past relationships, which and how I could relate them to the topic.
Right.
And I'm just like, why do I feel the need, like why do I have trust issues sometimes?
Yeah.
And you really realize you have trust issues once you meet a person that isn't toxic. Not to say that all my relationships are toxic and that it doesn't take two to tango. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
But it really makes you think like you don't really need to like bring all those trust issues that you got into your next relationship, because when you are with somebody that isn't controlling or needs your attention 24/7 and that's what you're used to, you're like, oh my God. And you don't need to explain all the trust issues that you've accumulated from your previous relationships. I was thinking about how we talked about my very first one, right? When I was in high school, how so basically when I'm in high school, I think I'm going to marry this girl, right? Because that's like how you grow up. That's your first definition of love. You're like, yeah, I'm going to be with my high school sweetheart. That's me. We've been together for what, 2.5, 3 years, whatever it may be. Then
How
boom,
sweet is that?
Yeah, right. Until she left me for my best friend. And then it's like, okay, wait, what just happened here? So now that changes the whole way that I perceive relationships.
Right.
And that's all I live. And that's literally at the time that Drake came out with his song, around that time, trust issues.
Right.
So it just made more sense. And then it's like, okay, now you don't really trust anybody. Then your whole definition of love is way different because the person that you thought you're going to be with literally could do that to you. And then the next one we go into is the one in college,
Uh-huh.
who then basically left me for her high school sweetheart. so so then it's like, wait, then it's like back to back.
Yeah.
And then you really until you sit with these kind of failed relationships and you figure out
Right.
what's going on and figure out
Hmm.
how they actually affect you, like you're going to accumulate a lot of trauma if you don't understand what's happening to you.
Right.
And the great thing about failed relationships is they can teach you a lot about yourself if you let them.
Right.
But obviously, if your first two real relationships, something like that happens, or in both, literally both cases, it's like it's going to change the way that you view relationships, you view love, and the way that you treat women.
Absolutely.
And then that's exactly what it did.
Yeah.
Then I just went full on, just called full on savage mode.
Full
And
on savage mode.
and the reason that happened is because it was like, oh yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that, I'm not going to be in these kind of relationships. I'm just going to keep doing whatever I'm doing, and then I'm only going to please myself,
Right.
which isn't always fair to
The person.
that you're dealing with, or in relationships with. But it just gives you something to think about. Do you have trust issues? And if you do,
Hmm.
why? Where did
Right.
they stem from? And how can you get rid of them? Are
Right.
they a red flag? Yeah, yeah. Is it is it the worst red flag you could have? I don't think so. Because at the end of the day, you can't really it's
The thing is
it's hard, man. It's a hard one.
trust issues are unfortunately it's a byproduct of other things. So
Mhm.
to have a bunch of people do things to you that would betray your trust and then you keep blindly trusting people, I think that's a red flag too. So
That is too.
so it's a cautionary tale. So because at some point
Mhm.
I think there's just a fine and thin line between you're just being cautious and you don't trust anybody else that
Mhm.
comes into your life.
So what does it mean to be cautious
Mm,
when it comes to relationships? Like, should you never be vulnerable, or when should you take that next step to be vulnerable if you have all these trust issues? So that's like
mhm.
someone who does have a lot of trust issues, can they be vulnerable?
Yeah, I think that what you should do is be patient when it comes to being vulnerable.
Mhm.
I feel like, especially like in our industry in the nightlife, we meet somebody today, we know their whole life story in the next 15 minutes.
Mhm.
That sometimes some people are just a little bit too open
Mhm.
too early. And so you're trusting somebody with parts of you that they didn't really they haven't taken the time to get to know you quite yet.
Mhm.
So I don't typically recommend giving everything out early. And I think you should kind of take the time and gradually show different parts of yourself as you guys grow together.
I agree with you on that. Let's break down trust issues
Okay.
and what exactly is bad about them and what exactly is, let's say, like manageable in a relationship with them.
Okay.
Most common signs if somebody has trust issues is constant suspicion or questioning of partner's activities. Is
Hmm.
that a normal trait to have? Or if somebody who constantly does, so the key word is constant.
Constant.
If somebody constantly does that,
Hmm.
is that somebody that you can still be in a relationship with? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Cannot do it because,
I've stayed in one of those.
well, yeah, you're crazy.
I,
So
I
that's
mean, it's a lot of things of like what you think you want
yeah, yeah, yeah,
versus
yeah,
what God has for you.
yeah, yeah.
So,
My thing is this. I think, like I said, in order to be in a relationship, there has to be a level of trust. And so,
mhm,
if everything that I'm doing, you're consistently questioning, I'm gonna get tired of giving you answers. Like it's gonna be cool at first
at
because you're
first,
gonna
right?
be like, hey, yeah, yeah, I'm going out with the homies. Yeah, I'll be there. Everything's fine. Hey, I'm going to work. Yeah, there's a couple girls there. Cool, whatever. Like, yeah, this is just what the situation is.
Mhm.
But once you get deeper into it, you're like, yo, what is wrong with you? Like, what do you mean I can't go to the gas station by myself? Why are you still
Mhm.
going through my phone every other night? Um,
So when what else? What else on there?
huh?
Who's what are you laughing at?
No, I was about to. I was about to. go down a rabbit hole in my head. Go ahead.
Oh no, this is literally what we have a podcast for, is to go down rabbit hole. Oh, you were thinking about another ex? Huh?
Yeah, I was about
So
to...
when is it when is it a point to cut it off, cut the relationship off? Because the whole point of the series, right, is to distinguish the red flags early on in the relationship to make it easier for you to walk away and leave this relationship before you get too involved.
Right.
So what signs, like when is enough of the constant suspicion or questioning of activities? When is it too much and you should walk away from that relationship?
I think when you start have to give, you're starting to have to give more answers. I'm sorry, you're starting to have to answer more questions than what you have answers for. I think that, and you have to start answering the same questions over and over and over again.
So how many times is too many times? 3 times, 4 times, 6 times, 10 times?
I think it situationally is different, right? So if you're questioning me about me going to work because I work with a lot of girls and you have a problem with that, it's my job. We'll talk about that once or twice, then we're over it. We should be over it at that point, because either I don't go to work or you have this problem. And if you can't get over it. But when it comes down to, let's say, if you want to go on, like you said, like a guy's night out or something like that. Okay, cool. I get why maybe if she knows that one of your friends is a bad influence and really likes to kind of get you out there and try to throw you into these 2-man missions or whatever the case is. I can understand that. But also at that point, you have to let her know, hey, cool, whatever they do is what they do. That has nothing to do with me. I'm my own person. I'm in control of that. So cool, you answer that a couple of times. Maybe in a situation where you might get a phone call or something like that on a random Tuesday for whatever reason, and you have to answer it, and they're wondering who is that. But every now and then you get phone. It just is what it is. I think it just depends on what situations are kind of arising. I think you can address every single one of those situations separately, but once you keep having to answer for things that you're not doing, when you're not showing any signs of doing anything, that's my thing.
I think that this is probably one of the hardest for me to see and leave.
Because you think it's cute? Or?
To me, it's just at this point in time, because of how everything, how I was brought up in relationships, I just feel like it's so normal to me to constantly check in on them. But then when you have your partner doing this, I think it's normal for them to do that. Yeah. And now in the current relationship that I'm in now,
you're in a current relationship, right? Well, is that
the current
okay? Yeah, go ahead.
You know what I'm talking about.
I got you. Yeah.
It's it's so healthy to where like there's no need to constantly check in on the other person. It's like, yo, have a good day. I'm gonna see you this day, or whatever it may be. So I'm just like, in the back of my head, I'm just like, okay, there's them trust issues that started to arise. I'm like, why am I thinking that? And then I was like, that's when I had to go back and like really think about all the other relationships. Like, okay, oh, that's why I'm thinking like that. You're not used to being in a relationship that's healthy where they're not constantly questioning what you're doing or where you're going.
Right.
So it was different. I'm like, how to sit down and think of myself, because when I have in previous relationships, when females had did that, I didn't think anything of it. I just, whatever you want to know. Here's my location.
You were sharing locations?
Whatever. I was dating them. What you mean?
And what do you mean?
That's another thing, right? But then here's the thing here. In this one, right? She don't ask me for mine, but I just wanted to. I didn't share it with her, but I have hers, but she don't ever ask me for mine. So I'm just like, all right, do you want it or no? So I'm probably just end up doing
sharing
it. Sharing
the locations is
right.
What's the value?
What is the value in that? I have no idea. I don't, at this point, I don't really care to have them, but it's just based on how past relationships went. You just think like, oh, that's what I need to do, but you really don't need to do it. There's absolutely, there is no need for it. So if you guys listen to it, ladies, you don't have to share your location. Fellas, you ain't got to share your location either.
That's my thing, because especially with the location thing,
that's a trust issue.
My week is the same pretty much every week.
Yeah,
my girl now, she's like, I can pretty much tell you at any point in the day where you're going to be at that time, and I'm like, you are correct. Literally. Why do we need to do that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%.
That's crazy. What about passwords to phones?
Absolutely not. Why?
You share locations but won't do phone passwords?
Why would I? I mean, I have nothing to hide, so I would. But it depends on the situation as well.
Okay.
So and then but also we talked about this before. If you want to find something, if you look at someone's phone, you're gonna find something you don't like.
You gonna
know what I'm
find
saying?
something you don't like.
If I say, yo, let me see your phone, I'm gonna see somebody hitting on her, and that is like, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go take my, all right, go get the gun, let's go. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make myself mad by looking at it, you know? And it's the same way, especially working in a nightclub, right? I'm sure there's DMs where girls asking you for sections or asking you for guest lists or whatever it may be,
right?
But it's not anything. So yeah, if you want to get mad, yeah, look in someone's phone. But
so
that's a absolutely.
So let me ask this then, because with the whole looking through the phone and seeing DMs and messages, like you said, you'll be mad because you'll see somebody trying to interact with her.
Mm-hmm.
Is that whether they're responding or not, or is it just the sheer fact that they thought it okay to try and communicate with your significant other?
No,
you got a problem.
I would just get mad just based on the principle of them.
Yeah, you got a problem, man.
First step is admitting it, right?
I think that there's a difference.
If you look at the track record of relationship, you could understand that, hey, not everything's going to be healed. Am I constantly working on everything? Yeah, of course. Do I have some trust issues? Yeah, somewhat. But you also have to trust the person that you're with.
Right.
Otherwise, the relationship's not going to work. Do I have some issues that have arise from past relationships that I probably still hold on to? Yeah. I'm a human being. I'm not, ain't no one perfect. Am I constantly improving and working on myself? 100%.
Cool.
Am I better than I was? 1,000%. 1,000%. But there's always more work to be done.
Right.
And not everybody is going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get that out of the way. Everybody's going to have some sort of red flags, and I understand that this is definitely one of my red flags. Maybe gaslighting too. Maybe. Everyone's going to have some sort of red flags. Right. You feel me?
So,
what else?
So, because I have a specific feeling toward phone checking, so I want to talk about that just a little bit more. That's my biggest pet peeve. But have you checked somebody's? You have checked somebody's phone before?
The only time. It's probably one time. It's probably in college, and I will never do it again. But you got to understand too, those back-to-back relationships were just like when the trust issues were obviously make sense when the trust issues were the worst. But no, absolutely not. Here's my thing: if they want to do something, they're going to do it. You checking their phone ain't going to stop them from doing it.
Right.
So the more controlling and the more controlling in that aspect of trying to check phones and stuff, the more controlling you are, the more you're going to make that person want to do what you don't want them to do.
It's such a childish reaction to that, but
it is how we humans, we want to have free will.
But the thing is, like I said, I do get it though, because that's always been my thing. I'm like, if I'm being accused of doing something, I'd like to be doing. If you're gonna accuse me of sleeping with somebody else, I'd like to be getting something out of this. Right now, I just have arguments with you over something that I'm not doing, and I'm like, let's have something to actually argue about.
I had an ex like that. I'm like, man, how? And then it was like, you were talking to this girl before we even dated. I'm like, first of all, wait, do you hear yourself?
Did you
before? But second of all, no, I wasn't. I wish I had.
Would have been nice.
But no, I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't say that part. But I was like, first, no, I didn't. Second of all, that's before I even knew you. So why does that even matter?
Why are we having this conversation? Yeah, I had a girl check through my phone once. She saw, because I don't really like delete messages, and so she's seen these messages from like 2 years before.
You even knew her, or hooked up, or met her, or whatever.
And we're arguing about this because she was like, "Why don't you talk to me like that?" I was like, I was 17. I was 19 years old. What do you mean? Why am I not talking to you like that? I was a very different person. I don't. Why are we doing? He looks like you.
I'm just thinking because, man, social media can be a blessing, but then it can also be so bad for you, because then when you go into a relationship, they're like, I've seen you do this with this girl, and you act like you like her more than you like me. I'm like, no, it's just
I'm in a different place in my life.
That didn't work, so let me do something else.
Yeah, man.
So, but man, at the end of the day, you just got to heal, and you coming on there? I was like, don't try and do the things that you want to do. Just let God do the things that he needs to do in your life. and your relationships will be a lot better. I promise you. I promise you that.
That's
Thank
so
God for that.
weird.
All right. What's another one? Difficulty believing what others say, even
yeah.
with evidence.
Even with evidence.
So, what's some examples you got on this one?
Bro.
Here's the thing: you have to. My thing is, you shouldn't be. So this is a bad red flag
Right.
because you shouldn't. You should have. If you're in a relationship with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
I just had a stroke right there. If you're in a relationship with somebody, you have to believe them in what they say
At some
until
point.
until even if you have evidence or whatever it may be, like the truth, my opinion, the truth is always going to come out eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want that relationship to work with that person, you're going to have to believe them. And if you're in the talking stages with somebody and they can't believe anything that you're saying to them, then that is when you need to move
Right.
on to the next one. All right. Especially if someone's not believing you early on.
Yeah.
Man, I made a mistake. I made plenty of mistakes, as you guys know.
One or two. I've had this situation where like I've had my phone checked and then nothing was found, and they're like, "Oh, you probably just deleted everything."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Did you want to find something?" And you're mad at me because you would have been mad if you found something. Now you're mad you didn't find something.
When that conversation had, how deep in the relationship were you?
This was probably
first 6 months.
Nah, it was probably longer than that.
Yeah, so that's the bat. So when trust issues, were there any signs in the first 6 months or the first 4 months of the relationship of trust issues, or did they start to arise later?
So here's the problem, right?
Exactly.
I always say that how you start a relationship matters very, very much. So the problem is this is one of those things that started as a situationship and started as something that I was completely open about. Like, yes, I am talking to other girls as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that thing started. And then it just kind of transitioned because she stuck around and then the other girl or two didn't. And so that's how we ended up moving forward. It wasn't like I met you, I like you, let's do this.
And this is why you shouldn't be having sex with multiple women at the same time anymore. Sorry, guys.
Anymore. Yeah, we've learned.
What are you getting out of it?
Well,
if you simple pleasure,
simple pleasure.
It's easy. You guys literally. That's never mind. Different topic for a different day, fellas. But if your goal is to be in a relationship, then you shouldn't be doing that.
Well, yeah, that was my goal at the time.
But that is what always happens, right? That wasn't my goal at the time.
It wasn't.
But you always find your love of your life when you're not looking.
I wasn't gonna go that far. You find, unfortunately, what happens is one of those things to where you're there with that person, and then you guys just keep kind of just
hanging out and hooking up. And then what do you expect going to happen though?
Yeah, but my thing is this, right? Obviously, we have conversations, right, during that time where you talk about what you are and aren't looking for. And at that time, I've never been one to mince words during that conversation.
So what you do in the flesh affects your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what you're doing, of course, there's a spiritual bond with that other person. So you have no choice but, if you're doing it, especially if you're doing it consistently, you have no choice but to catch feelings for that person.
No choice.
So ladies, ladies, you better hold out. Hold out as long as possible. If you want a relationship. If you don't want a relationship, go be in the streets. But if you want a relationship, that's what you're going to have. Why are you condoning that? Come
on. No. It's fun out there. We're not going to act like it's not fun out there. It's not good for you, but it is. It is fun out there, man.
Speaking from experience, it's it's not. There's not. What are you getting out of it?
Right. When you think about it like that, but that's
here's the thing. It's just like people get older, but they don't grow up. And it's just like you still, and trust me, guys, I work in the nightlife industry. So basically, what do we sell? We essentially sell sex.
That is what
we sell.
The idea and the possibility.
The possibility that you can go out and meet a girl and hook up with her.
Yeah,
that's what we sell. So I hear so many different versions of the same story of guys talking about women. So it's just like, and of all different ages. It's like, are you ever going to grow up? Maybe not.
It's so embarrassing. Like, everybody has fears. People are scared of heights. People are scared of public speaking. I'm scared of being 50 years old, trying to walk around in the club and find a girl. Because that's what I see. That's what we be seeing. 40, 50-year-olds trying to find these 21, 22-year-old girls and I'm like, good Lord, take me out before I get to something like that, please.
Yeah, it's it's a it's a it's a problem.
It's an epidemic.
Yeah, it really is. But man, I don't know that. But like women, you got to make it harder for the guy. You got to make it harder for the guy. And
Make what harder?
hooking up.
Hooking up harder.
Yeah,
Okay.
hooking up with them.
Right.
Because what guys are going to keep doing the same thing if they think it's that easy.
Mhm.
Which the game ain't that hard.
It's not.
It's really not.
That's the point.
Literally. So you gotta make it harder. And the worst way you can start a relationship is through having sex so many times.
Mhm.
Literally one of the worst ways.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
at that point you're just getting into a relationship that started with a physical altercation or a physical connection
Mhm.
and not an emotional connection. If you want something that's going to be longer lasting, it's got to start with an emotional connection, not a physical
Mhm.
connection.
Let me-
So if that's happening, don't expect that relationship to last. I can almost guarantee you that it won't.
Unfortunately, in most cases, it will not. Every
And the
now and
reason
then,
being is because none of mine have. No matter how much you think they're going to, they're not going to. So you have, if that's what you're looking for, you have to start it with an emotional connection. If all you want is to be in the streets and do all that, then you have to be real with yourself too, and that other person. And when they start catching feelings, you got to leave. I'm out of here, because you're just going to delay the inevitable.
So let me ask you this question, right? In the spirit of trust issues and you trying to obviously show that you're not doing anything and they're still choosing not to believe you.
Mhm.
So have you ever had a situation where you were involved with a girl, she thought you were involved with another girl, and then you had her go and talk to that girl to ask her herself? Or have they done that, taken that upon themselves and done that before?
I mean, I've had a girl do that,
Uh-huh.
and she was right. So, I mean, and one of the girls.
Oh,
It was like
Yeah.
and here's why I say you guys should only talk to one girl at a time.
Uh-huh.
Because it's just going to create havoc for you and more problems for you to deal with. Because this was at a time before I dated one of my exes. When I was talking to,
Uh-huh.
I was in the talking stages. So
Yeah.
you're not exclusive
You're
at that
not.
point.
You're
But
not.
so you're like, oh, let me go talk to her, and kind of feel the vibe, see who I like more. However, whatever reason, the other girl, it was a super detective, and so I liked a post or something, and then DM'd her, and then they found out. I'm like, oh, now I gotta go burn. I gotta go put out the fires, and I can only put out one of the fires, obviously, because then at that point you gotta make a choice.
You got to make a choice
And,
at that point.
Yeah, so she was a good detective, and
She was right.
you actually know her.
Yeah.
I'll tell you later. we don't say names. We don't say names on this podcast, except for on Rent Free. His name starts with M.
Okay, that's funny.
And his
okay.
last name starts with L.
Okay,
For
that's
loser.
L for loser.
Listen
That's
to Rent
nice.
Free, please.
Okay, interesting. So you had that situation and the girl was right about it.
Technically, but I mean, it was in talking stages.
But it was like during
And-
those early stages.
Right, and that's why I say communication is so important.
Right.
And when you're talking to somebody and you want to be exclusive with them, let them know that.
Yeah.
Certain girls are going to automatically think that, because you remember you said, well, what if they automatically think that? And I was like, yeah, well, you have to know the kind of girl you're talking to. Are you talking to a girl that's in the streets? Then you need to have that conversation.
You got to read the room, baby.
If you're talking to a girl that's not in the streets, then you got to automatically know, once you guys start to get serious, then you're exclusive.
What is serious though? What do you mean once you start to get serious? What does that mean? That's
seeing them on a consistent basis and texting them every day. That's serious.
How long should you be seeing them consistently before we determine that it's serious?
So that I'm not going to let. Yeah, you guys are gonna have to answer that one.
Because
how long? I say a couple weeks.
At the
end of the day, like we know once we start to see this person, do we see us dating them? And then if we do want to get into a relationship, do we see anything long term with them?
Right.
So you're gonna know once you know in your head, oh, I would date this girl. Then that's when you should be cutting everything else off.
You should cut everything else off once you feel like you like her. And so, but what if you don't? But what if you don't have that conversation and then she's like, "Oh, I'm not really looking for anything serious."
then that's when you got to get up out of there. What you mean? That's why communication is so important.
Right.
Don't waste nobody's time. Don't waste your time. Go back to the streets if that's going to make you feel better, whatever it may be. But don't. That's why communication is so important. Don't waste anybody's time.
Uh-huh.
Get up out of there.
Yeah.
Don't try and force it. Like I've done plenty of times, right? Manipulate them back into the relationship, and then you're stringing them along for a year because you think it's love or whatever it may be, and then it ends, and then it's a freaking explosion. No. Listen to the red flags early and get up out of there. If it's for you, it's going to be easy. And I know they say love, you got to fight for. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be that hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
If that is who God wants you to be with, it's going to be way easy. Trust me. It's going to be way easy. Let go of what you want and let God give you what you need. And that's the deal of the day.
And that's the deal of the day.
Trust God, not your own plan.
Right.
Lean not into your own understanding.
That's what it says.
And seek first his kingdom. Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness. Taking you guys to church. Oh, also speaking of church, Cleon is going to be singing at my church on Easter Sunday.
Brandon's making an announcement that I did not make.
He's not, but I'm going to make him come to church on Easter Sunday. It's a small church, so it's not going to be as crowded as you think. But you guys want to come to church? I don't know the address off the top of my head. I can probably find it. I'm going to get baptized though. Next Sunday, which is Easter Sunday. And address is 1304 South 58th Street, Tampa, Florida 33619. So if you want to come Easter Sunday, that is my invitation to you. And you guys can see me get baptized, and you can see Cleon sing some church songs.
You will not be singing.
What are we singing first? Lead Me to the Cross.
I don't know.
That's a great song. I'll be up there lip syncing right next to him.
Yeah, right.
It'll be a great time. So we'll guys see you there. All right, we're hopping right back in there. Fear of vulnerability or emotional intimacy. That is a trust issue. How do you know it? So this obviously speaking early on in a relationship standpoint. How do you know if somebody is afraid of being vulnerable or having emotional intimacy with you?
I think when it comes to those deep talks, because like when you first meet somebody, y'all get real kind of deep and like heavy.
You can, yep.
And so during those conversations, when you see they kind of start to shy away from those things, or they don't really want to go in there with you, you kind of get to see that. Okay, so what? And I'll ask the question. I'm like, so what are you afraid of right now? And then just to kind of obviously figure out where they're coming from, what the problem is. But you can kind of tell once you get into those conversations, she's not really giving you any sort of direct answers, nothing real, right? As you're giving something real and deep from your past and you're talking about stuff that really happened to you and stuff like that, they're not really trying to get into that with you because they're,
So do you, Daryl said a comment. Appreciate that, brother. Good to see you and connect. Shoot me a DM, bro. I'll give you my number and we'll connect again. And congrats on becoming a father, brother.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's I can't wait to become one. So that's amazing. Getting back to that part of when should you be vulnerable with somebody?
I think that
is that a first date kind of thing?
So the thing is, it's so much easier on a first date to just, if that conversation is flowing like that, it's so easy to just get real, to just go to get as deep as possible on that.
So let me tell you guys a story.
All
right, I appreciate that. It's a good story, and it basically my current relationship, right? I was not trying to, I'm celibate, still celibate, no sex, no sex, because I believe on creating an emotional relationship before that, because all my ways have never worked, so I'm gonna do it God's way this time. You know what I'm saying? It actually started just like a random date. I was like, hey, let me just take you out. We've known each other before, so I was like, let me see if there's anything still there, because I'm not even sure there is, but let's figure it out. And harmless date. And then that's literally what happened on the first day. I'm like, it's just like super vulnerable talk. We both
Right.
It just felt really comfortable. I'm like, dang, okay, this is a little weird. It's
Yeah.
like, God, what
Yeah.
you trying to do? So it can't happen on the first date. I just say that to say that it can't happen on the first date. And I think because it did happen on that first date, it just I just literally saw her in a whole different light. And I'm just like, oh, okay, all right, maybe there is
Mhm.
something there. I was like, this is I really wasn't expecting it. I was just expecting it really just to see.
Mhm.
And then I was like, boom, there's a little spark there. But it's happened from being vulnerable with somebody. And if you can be vulnerable with them, I know it's like if you have trust issues, it's one of the scariest things you can do. Cause then it's
Right.
like, oh, I'm gonna open up and then they're gonna know so much about me and then they're gonna leave me or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
It's tough. Relationships can be tough. And is that a possibility? 100%.
Yeah.
You know what else is a possibility? All these plane crashes that keep happening as
Everything's
well.
possible, man.
There's so many other ones I keep
Mm.
sending you to. There's been like two or three other ones in the helicopter. Like anything is possible.
Right.
Anything can happen at any point in time. Just like we get to choose to love, knowing that
Mhm.
it's going to potential or it's not going to potentially and like something's going to happen one day like that you're going to die or your spouse is going to die. You choose to get animals and love your animals, they're going to die before you die
Mhm.
typically. Like we choose to do all these things because it feels good, but we also know like nothing is permanent, like they're all going to come to an end as well.
Right.
But I just say that if you can be vulnerable early on, if it makes sense and if it flows,
Mhm.
then that's always good. To I think that to go off of your point as well, if somebody isn't going to be vulnerable with you, if they're just letting you open up and they're not opening up with you,
Right.
that is when you have to
Is that a red
notice.
flag?
That is a trust issue red flag. Yes.
Uh-oh.
Oh, do you Cleon is just the listener. So I think it is also important for
Yeah.
guys to be a good listener too. But
Yeah.
ladies, if you're talking to a guy that you're trying to get to know,
Yeah.
and you're the only one being vulnerable, and he's not sharing the same kind of stories
Mhm.
with you,
Mhm.
the same kind of whatever maybe past relationships or other trauma that he's working through, then that's when you probably
I think you should
gotta
question it. Just ask.
you should ask, yeah,
Gently,
questioning it.
gently though, right?
Nah, just go for the
No,
throat, man.
gently
If
ask
it's
the
for you,
question.
it's for you.
Because it's funny because like you say in my situations I've been in plenty of situations where we get to a certain point and the girl's like, I feel like I've told you everything and I don't know anything about you, like whether it comes down
Yeah.
even comes down to like your favorite color or your favorite food, I don't even know that about you.
I had that happen in a relationship too. So I know I literally I understand. It's like, but it was also I was in a relationship to where like I was
Right.
still healing
Yeah.
from past situations and
Mhm.
stuff. So
Can we talk about those? Can we talk about just
getting in a relationship
because
while you're still healing.
when no, not that,
Oh,
but that's an interesting thing. I've been talking about that actually on my TikTok. But
TikTok at Cleon Deal, something
yeah,
like that, right?
at undecided deal. They're tearing
Oh,
me apart
undecided.
in my comments right now. But there are two instances that I think about when it comes to why I've had trust issues in the past. Number one was
Hmm.
back in high school where the girl I was with told me that I was like crying over her. She was like, we can still be together, but if we stay together, I'm gonna cheat on you. I think I told that story in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Skeletons. But the second one was when I want to say I was probably like 21 or something like that. This was probably the worst one, right? Where me and the girl that I was with, we was like on and off for a while, and I guess we were getting to a point where it was better. And I remember one day, and I will never say this to a girl again. I haven't healed yet, guys. So this is me being very vulnerable with you right now.
It's a hot podcast.
I remember because there was some guy that apparently, I don't know what was going on, but apparently nothing was going on. I don't know, whatever. But I
Mhm.
remember one day I told her, I was like, you look really happy today, and I'm happy to see that. Like, I know we've been going through a lot of things and haven't been in the go, but you look great. You look happy today. And I'm so happy to see that. Fast forward, I ended up checking her phone, unfortunately. I
Never check the
realized
phone,
I
fellas.
never checked the phone because when you start, you can't stop. It's like a drug after that.
It really is.
It's
I did it
so
one
bad.
time. It'll be
Ugh.
that was the last time
Yeah.
I'll ever do it because I'm
Yeah,
trying to
you got
die.
it right.
I'm
I ain't
gonna.
got it. You're gonna die.
I was like, I want to kill myself. Read all this shit. Go
After
get the gun.
It was so bad because after I had checked her phone, I realized the day before I told her that she had slept with another guy.
So of course she was, of course she was so happy. So fellas, man, hey, if you see your girl too happy, you better question that shit. Wait,
Brother,
babe, why are you so happy? I didn't fuck you.
I will never tell a girl she looks happy again until I'm like 50, probably. I was like, okay, yeah, this is now granted the
Oh,
relationship
man.
wasn't great and there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of things that I did
Yeah.
wrong there. There's a lot of things that she did wrong. And that's just kind of where it was at. But
Mhm.
that that was crazy.
That's hilarious.
That one hurt. That one hurt a
Did
little
we
bit.
did we already say assuming negative intentions behind neutral actions?
We did not say that
Oh,
one
because
yet.
that was a perfect story for that one. Anyway. So I actually do have this problem sometimes too.
Yeah.
And it's normal. Not I can't say normal.
I don't know if anything we do is normal.
Right. So trust issues arise based on past experience of betrayal, childhood experiences, or previous unhealthy relationships. They can create a cycle where fear of being hurt leads to behaviors that actually damage relationships.
Mhm.
So if you've had those past experiences to where you have developed these trust issues,
Right.
that I mean, having these thoughts is normal.
Mhm.
What you do with these thoughts
Right.
determines if your relationship will be good or bad.
Right.
And if you're in a relationship, a healthy relationship,
Mhm.
and then your brain's like, oh my God, what is all this? And then you're assuming negative intentions
Yeah.
behind neutral actions.
Yeah.
It's how you act on those thoughts that you have.
Mhm.
You can have all these bad thoughts and be like, oh my God, what if she's doing this? What if he's doing this?
Mhm.
Yada, yada. But you have to understand all these thoughts are all based on you and not this other person.
Right.
Because just like we just read, or just like I just read, it says behind neutral actions, meaning they're just regular actions, guys.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything crazy,
Mhm.
just neutral actions, and you are creating all these negative thoughts. And I'm not gonna lie, I've done this plenty of times.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But it's how I learn to handle those thoughts,
Mhm.
not just blowing that person up and be like, yo, why are you doing this? Like, who you with? What?
Yeah.
Not being that person. No, no, no. Because you're creating those you're letting those negative thoughts show.
Mhm.
But it's really at the end of the day, it's not even a bad situation. She's not doing anything. She's just whatever it may be. She's out with the girls, or she's having lunch with her
Mhm.
girlfriends, or she was not. She was not being not.
And she was not. She was just taking a nap. She was just taking a
You
nap.
know, like, oh, no one texted me in 3 hours. You were taking a nap.
Yeah.
No, you weren't. But it's if you've been through a trauma, it's normal to have those thoughts.
Yeah.
So don't think that you can. That it's not normal to have those thoughts. You know what I'm saying? You can have those thoughts,
Mhm.
but it's how you act on those thoughts that are going to determine whether you're going to ruin another relationship or you're going to find yourself in a healthy relationship.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of like that thing where when you come from a bad relationship
Mhm.
and then get into a good one and you're so used to having to argue on a consistent basis
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing to argue about so you just start arguments.
Mhm.
It kind of reminds me of that sort of thing because it's like why are we arguing about this? It's like do you need chaos in your relationship for you to feel like this is normal?
So what if somebody does need chaos?
Sometimes they do because it's like I said, it's just like with anything, it's a lifestyle
Yeah,
change.
you're like so used to it.
This
So
is your version of a
when it's
relationship.
not, yeah, exactly. So when it's not there, you're like, oh my God. Then you start to have all these other crazy thoughts.
They think there's something wrong if you're not consistently arguing.
Yeah. And I think that that's part of real like me realizing the relationship that I'm in now, like how much healthier it really is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, I'm having these thoughts, but I'm like, oh wait, why am I having these thoughts? Oh, there's no reason. It's just there from the past relationship. So it's
Right,
like, what are we still even having
right.
these conversations for? So
Dealing with a heart that I didn't break. Shout out Drizzy Drake, you know.
yeah. So yeah, you gotta heal yourself in order to put yourself into better relationships. Like that's all it
Absolutely.
is. And failed relationships are literally some of the best things that can ever happen to you.
Hmm.
And it's just important to realize the red flags that you have yourself, which we all do,
Right.
and how to handle them.
Absolutely.
And what Daryl said, the best thing I did was leave a jealous or was I did too. I'm having another stroke. I can't even read.
Brandon cannot read today, guys.
So it's Saturday and I worked last night, and then brain only works occasionally. But that's why we're here, guys. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But the best thing I did, I'm gonna read it again. I'm gonna try this again. All right. You guys ready? Let me try this again. The only thing I can be is me, guys. All right.
Yeah,
I can't be
that
nobody
is
else.
for darn certain. The only thing you can be is you, man.
I had 2 strokes during this episode, but we're gonna be all right, guys. Just keep praying for me. The best thing I did to leave jealousy behind was to know my self-worth in relationships. Keep yourself accountable. 100%. And I think that's important, to know your self-worth, and don't find what I did all the time and what a lot of guys do is when is you find your self-worth in material things. And,
Right.
And what we grow up, hey, if you have a lot of money, if you have a lot of sex with a lot of beautiful women, like your self-worth is higher.
Right.
So that's what we start chasing to give our own self-validation, because that's what the world tells us.
Right.
But that's not true.
It's not true.
So you can't, it's hard. It's really hard, but you can't hold your self-worth to the amount of women that you sleep with, or the caliber of women that you sleep with too. Because I used to do that all the time. But you guys think she's hot? Oh, watch me.
Let me go see. Let me see what I can do with it. Yeah,
Here we go. I did it. I'm cooler than you guys.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a
And
terrible
that's how
way
you
to
get the
live.
self-worth. Or once you start making money, it's like, oh, okay, now I have all this money. But if that money leaves tomorrow, how do you still see yourself?
What do you have left after that?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
if the
saying?
money is gone tomorrow and you just have the bare bones minimum to cover rent, food, car, and just to live, how are you still going to see yourself?
Right.
And I think that both of those are really important to know, that, hey, you don't need a woman to validate you with your self-worth. You don't need any amount of money to validate your self-worth. All you need is the love of God. And once you can realize that it's not your life to live, you're living it for God, then it makes it a lot easier. Once you don't keep all your self-worth and all that kind of stuff, it makes it a lot easier. And I only say that because I've done both. Had my worth in money and held my self-worth in women.
Absolutely. I have Nicosia in my TikTok chat. She said, period.
Period.
That was her agreement there, just in case for you all that didn't know.
Which
love
part?
that. But yeah, I think that what you find your self-worth in is extremely important, because like you said, once you take everything else away, what are you? I think that, and that's one of those things that unfortunately takes a lot of reflection, right? When I think me and you can agree that after our worst experience, when we really had to just sit with ourselves alone in a room, that's when we had to figure out, okay, so what am I and what am I not? Basically, what am I taking from this? What am I leaving behind? And then what am I going to do after this?
And understand, you can only work on one thing at a time.
Right.
Things are going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me to not hold my self-worth in, women, or the amount of women that I could pull, that's what we use, is the amount of women you can pull.
Yeah.
And it's funny, there's a guy who's like, oh yeah, you're so cool because you've been with this girl and that's who you dated. And I'm like,
I'm cool because of the, he said you're cool because of the girls.
Yeah, he's like Brendan Pools, but I'm like, that's not even what I do, bro. I dated a girl. It turned out to be a bad experience. And then
Brandon used to be a pimp, guys. So it's a different life now.
I was dating a girl that was toxic and bad for me, but I wish her the best in life, and I hope that she finds God and lives the life that God wants her to live.
Amen.
Amen. The other part of that, what was I about to say? Oh, in the money thing. And then when I'm going through financial changes,
right,
as well,
it
is it's difficult to, like, it's like, man, I'm not as much of a man because my pay changed. And then it's like, it's harder to like kind of feel worthy of,
right,
because you were at this pay structure and now you're going through a season of change to where your finances may not be what you're used to them being.
Right.
But you also have to realize that your self-worth isn't in those finances, in that it's also a season.
Right. Exactly.
The best advice you can give yourself is the advice you would give to somebody else.
Yeah.
And
By far.
it's so hard to give that advice to yourself when you're going through these things, but you
Yeah.
have to look at it like if my best friend or my child was going through these things, what advice would I give them?
Yeah.
And give that advice to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I did when I was going through that period of financial changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, that's my value isn't going to be attached to that
Yeah.
regardless. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's not my money anyways.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
mine.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And also, it's just a season.
It's just a season.
Just as fast as, in 2020 when I only had $20,000 or only made $20,000 and had like a terrible, terrible, worst ever financial year I've ever had.
Yeah.
A lot of learning and growing in that year as well. Just as fast as that changed to me making a really good income, it can change again. You know what I'm saying? So don't hold your self-worth to that. Your self-worth is in your character and in God. So keep praying for that. And don't hold it in monetary things or in the amount of women or kind of guys.
Anything
that
that's fleeting, you shouldn't place your self-worth or your character in those things that just come and go.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's also true too. He said Jesus was not even close to rich, turned out to be the most valuable man in human history. Think about that. 100%.
MVP, baby.
MVP, man. And God sent his only son to die for our sins, so that way we could still seek eternal life. And a good show, if you guys want to watch a good show, because it's so hard for me to read the Bible, so I get a study Bible to where it kind of explains everything, because there's a lot about it in the Bible. And for me, it's hard to read the Bible and understand what they're saying, because obviously it's been translated from Aramaic to whatever. Now we're in that. But watch The Chosen. It's on Amazon Prime. It gives you a great understanding of, it's very well interpreted of how Jesus lived and how he met his disciples, and it kind of goes through that lifestyle. It's like three or four seasons, something like that. I think I'm on the third season, but it's really good and explaining that. If you're not good at reading the Bible like I'm not, definitely watch that show as well. All right, wrap things up here. What else you got? I have any other ones that we want to dive into? If not, then we're going to basically how you can address your own red flags of trust issues.
I think that one that we should just briefly touch on is that relates to this is self-sabotage.
Oh, I'm great at that. Great at that.
Self-sabotage, for those of you who don't know, is basically you doing everything you can to mess up a good thing that happens to you in your life.
Because you think it's too good for you, or you just don't know what the hell you're doing. You're not used to it being, you're just so used to toxic that you're like, oh, this isn't good for me.
Yeah.
So your brain is like, yeah, destroy. And then that's when you start to get all those crazy thoughts of like, oh no, they're doing this, they're doing that. And then you act on those crazy thoughts, and then boom, that's how you self-sabotage.
Yeah. If you've ever had like a close, like female friend and she talks to you about guys,
guys, you should have a close female friend that you can talk to, and they can tell you that you're crazy and losing it, like I had. And I was like, oh, and she's like, oh, you're fucking crazy, you're losing it. She's like, you're losing it, calm down. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So having that conversation,
she didn't text me in 3 hours. Yeah. Calm down, brother.
So anybody who's had that, you'll have that conversation with them at some point where she say, I met this guy. He, he does this, he does that, he does all the right things. He helps me out. He does it. And so you'll ask, okay, so what's the problem? And she'll say, I don't know, but I don't like it. It's weird to me. I think he's weird. And I'm like, okay, but you don't think the guy who can't hold a job, who doesn't talk to you very respectfully, you think he's normal. And so now you're shying away from this gentleman because you don't think that's, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, those are always fun to deal with.
It's but that's what trust issues kind of can bleed into, because of the fact that
they're definitely, if you, here's the thing, and I like to remind myself of this as well. Your thoughts are not you, but you have to be with your thoughts.
You got to be there with them.
But it depends on how you react to those thoughts. And self-sabotaging is basically you're taking the wrong actions based on those thoughts that are in your head.
Right.
But understand that your thoughts are not you.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts are not you. Now, once you act on those thoughts,
Now,
now
now,
that becomes you because that's something that you've done.
right.
You feel me? But yeah, that's it. While trust issues are challenging, they can be addressed through a couple key points to finish up here:
Yeah.
self-awareness and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging the problem. We love speaking on this all the time. You have to be self-aware
I have to.
and know, like, you're not perfect. You have red flags too. You have issues. You might have trust issues. If you've been through some of the stuff that we've both been through, you're going to have some trust
At
issues.
least one or two of them.
Yeah, if you had your girlfriend leave you for your best friend, or if you had a girlfriend cheat on you,
It's
like, you going,
reasonable to
it's
have that.
reasonable. Yeah, exactly. But you have to be self-aware, and
Right.
you have to acknowledge the fact that you actually have this. Otherwise, you're not going to get better.
Right. Exactly.
So that's step number one. And then once you get into a relationship that could be healthy, you have to understand that, hey, it's okay for me, or it's understandable for me to have these kind of thoughts and have these feelings based on what my past traumas. It's normal for me to have these feelings. Guys, you can have those kind of feelings. Don't act on them. If you're in something that's actually healthy and they're not actually giving you a reason for you to lose your mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Open communication about feelings and concerns. I think this is one of the most important things you can do, is also be aware of how your feelings or how you express emotions.
Right.
And one of the main things I made sure I did
Mm-hmm.
in this relationship is immediately early on let her know, like, hey, I do sometimes have a problem holding things in until it's too late
Right.
and then explaining them.
Right.
I sometimes want to hold things in because I want to appear more manly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be the guy that talks about his emotions or his feelings.
Right.
So it's important to know that that's how you act and that's how you are, and let your significant other know that, so that way they can help you. So when they see that's how you're acting or something, maybe they can be the one to bring you back to life and be, hey, is there something on your mind, or whatever it may be. So open
Right.
communication about feelings and concerns is also important as well. Anything on that?
Anything on what?
Open communication
Oh yeah,
about feelings.
about feelings. Yeah,
Cleon don't even know what that word means. He's
Fe-
just
First of all, anyway,
that's his red flag. He
um,
don't talk about his feelings to his girl or nothing. He just, yeah, you know what I'm feeling.
allegedly,
Allegedly,
that
yeah.
is what people keep saying. Maybe,
Let me call her. Is she listening?
I don't know. Maybe we'll see. So
How is Cleon's open communication?
hey, you leave her out of this. Open
That's my
communication.
friend.
Yeah, she's great. Open communication. I think that is always going to be the number one thing to help you through, especially any of these red flags, really,
Mhm.
but especially when it comes to something like trust issues. The reason being is because you have to, like you said, you're going to have these thoughts. And I want to be clear that it is okay to have these thoughts.
Mhm.
But the problem is that you're not going to be able to work through those things unless you communicate those things clearly, because there's no opportunity to put those feelings to rest or at ease if I don't know that is happening.
Yeah.
And so I don't mean telling me in the form of yelling at me about things that I'm suspected of doing. I'm talking about
Mhm.
openly communicating to say, hey, I'm having trouble grasping the concept of you going out with your friends, and I just need some context. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? And so when you acknowledge that and you can have that open communication with your partner, it'll allow basically those thoughts to maybe just to quiet down just a little by
Yeah.
little by little by little. It's going to be a gradual process. These things
Without
do not
sounding
happen
too
overnight
crazy.
without sounding too
But you
crazy.
can always preface it too, like, oh, I'm not really good at, all this open communication about my feelings and stuff. So I'm gonna try it out. You can always
I'm
say
gonna
that.
say this
I'm
how
gonna
I can
say
say
this
it.
how I perceive it. I hope you interpret it as I'm trying to
Yeah,
explain it to you, but also know that I'm not good at doing this, or I'm
yeah,
not used to doing this.
yeah,
Like, you can also let them know these kind of things. So they're like, all right, hey, now let's unpack it even more.
yeah. Exactly,
Which
exactly.
also leads to ways, when you're actually in a relationship or even
Hmm.
with yourself, is doing seeking professional therapy as
Right.
well,
That's always
to
one.
unpack these stories that you tell yourself,
Yeah.
or the stories that you've been through. It's also important for you. You can even if you've been in a relationship for 5 years, whatever, you guys
Right.
can still be go and see a therapist,
Yeah.
because they're going to help you unpack things in
Hmm.
your own brain that you guys may not be able to unpack with each other. It's just
Exactly.
like having that third party look at it
Yeah.
from a objective perspective
Hmm.
to be able to help you guys communicate better. All right. And then after that is establishing healthy boundaries. We talk about this all the time. What are healthy boundaries? Clear communication at the beginning of a relationship. Letting people know if they do something that, especially early on in a relationship,
Especially early on.
letting them know, like, if they do something that you are not fond of, that you respectfully tell them.
Nip it
Yeah.
quick.
And then if they continue to do that, obviously, then that's when you can move on and leave.
Get out of there.
But setting healthy boundaries, not sleeping with them. You feel me? Not sleeping with them guys. All right. We already know where that leads. We already know where that leads. And your self-worth isn't attached to whether you can have sex with them or not. All right.
Right.
Let me just repeat that for the 18th time.
For all those young men out there who are watching what a high value man is, and they're being told that it's who can have all the women.
The high value man is the guy who sleeps with all the women and does what he wants and is making $1 million a year
Yeah.
and has 18 girlfriends.
Yeah.
That's not true.
You see how far that gets you.
Yeah, go ahead and try it out. Go and try it out.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Been there, done that. It's not what you want. Trust
Right.
me.
Exactly.
I mean, I never had that many at once.
Well, yeah.
I'm not that cool. You know what I'm saying?
I've done all right, but nothing like that.
Right? But yeah, establish those healthy boundaries. What are some other healthy boundaries that you should establish early on in the talking stages of a relationship, so that way, if they are broken, that's when you need to move on?
Mm-hmm. I think that the way that you guys, your senses of humor, I think are a big thing, because the way that you joke about somebody, you might not know what their pain points are or what their insecurities are, and you may unknowingly nick one of those things in the process. And so letting them know what you are and aren't okay with when it comes to those certain situations is super, super important, because they don't know. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things that you might be able, like you and your homies joke about, that you can't joke with your girl about.
And that's why clear communication is important at the beginning of the relationship too.
So, like, hey, I don't like that. Oh, my bad. I ain't know.
But give them the reason why. And then that comes into the practice of vulnerability as well. Hey, why does that bother you?
Right.
Get vulnerable with that person. Yeah, if they can open up and be vulnerable with you, and instead of just no, I'm not gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Then that goes into the red flag of trust issues. So it's like, hey, do I still want to continue what I'm doing with this person? Maybe I should take a step back.
Right.
Give this situation some space and really see if this is who I want to be with.
And it's also a difference between I refuse to talk about it and I'm not ready to talk about it. So the way that you communicate that is super important as well. So if you're not ready to talk about something because you're not there yet, then that's fine. But you should openly communicate that as well, rather than saying, I don't want to talk about it. Just leave it where it's at, instead of, hey, that's something that at some point I'll tell you about, but just for the time being, if we could just stay away from that, that would be a huge help for me.
Amen. All right. Is all I got on the topic of red flags. I appreciate you guys tuning in. To wrap things up, what you got, Cleo?
Just the last thing on trust issues. I just want to make sure that we understand, like we said, it is okay to have them, because it's human nature. As people, we're going to doubt people. We're going to doubt things. That's just the way that it works. But understanding, number one, why you're having these issues with trust, with trusting the person that's in front of you, because sometimes it may not always have anything to do with them. Sometimes it's a result of what happened. Like we always talk about something that happened in your childhood. A lot of girls who I've talked to talk about their trust issues stem from the first man in their life, which was their father. Yeah. So understanding
that's a whole daddy issue.
That's a whole other thing.
So that's a whole nother thing right there. That's where daddy issues start from, is that.
Yeah. So understanding why you have those trust issues, number one, and then also understanding that it's not that person's fault, but unfortunately at that point it is kind of their burden to bear. But trying to do your best to make that as easy on them as possible by openly communicating, and then obviously making sure that basically working through that process, because like you said, those voices are going to be in your head. Ideally, the longer that you go, you get to gradually quiet those to a point where they end up silent. And that way you can just, you get to work through your relationship freely at that point.
Amen. Awareness is key when it comes to these things. So if you are in the early talk, because this is what we're trying to do, is help you make a decision in the early on stages of your relationship.
Those are the
So
crucial points, man.
if you are having trust issues, if you have trust issues, or your partner that you are trying to see if it's a good fit for you
Right.
has trust issues, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end all be all,
Right.
but it is a conversation to have, and it's important to make sure that you're aware of it and that your partner is aware of these things,
Mhm.
and you talk about them and you set those clear healthy boundaries. And then if they keep breaking those boundaries that you set, then
Get
it's
out of
time
there.
to then it's time to move on. Doesn't matter how good anything else is, it's time to move on. It's not for you.
Right.
It's not for you in the long run.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Other than that, we appreciate you guys tuning in, hanging out with us on another episode of the Real Deal Podcast. And remember, baptized on Easter at church. So if you guys want
Yeah.
to come hang out with me, service starts at 9:30. I will see you then, and we'll see you next week. Peace out. I don't know how we always talk for an hour off nothing.